to another edition of Weekly Digest, a government information agency program that keeps you informed on what the administration has been doing that will create a better environment for citizens. I'm your host, Shanta Govardhan. Thank you for joining us. In this week's presentation for the period December 27, 2014 to January 3, 2015, several large companies invested in Guyana in 2014, 2 Region 3 islands benefiting from 24-hour electricity service, and over 2,700 more youth and single parents now empowered with varying skills. Guyana's stable and growing economy, infrastructure modernization, and all the necessary framework in place serve to lure large investors to these shores. Several large and reputable companies invested in Guyana in 2014.
As Guyana's economy continued to grow in 2014, it demonstrated the continued confidence that both local and international investors placed in the country. With the President's proroguing of the 10th Parliament after the budget cuts of 2014 were restored by the Finance Minister and the opposition threatened to take him to the Privileges Committee, the country nevertheless continued to grow. The education, health, and other sectors continued to expand, with investors showing their interest in the country, with ExxonMobil, an American multinational oil and gas corporation, announcing its intention to invest some $300 million locally. Rubis also commissioned 5 storage tanks at Providence on the east bank of Demerara. The year also saw within the agriculture sector the Caribbean Rice Mill of Trinidad and Tobago's Barron Foods coming on board.
So we hope that this initiative by substitution with products grown here in Guyana would be able to significantly reduce our food import bill, enhance our food security as a nation and a fellow member of CARICOM, as well as address the very vexing issue of food inflation, which forms a core component in the overall headline inflation. Food inflation, as much as it's not at the forefront of the minds of most citizens of any country, I think.
Banking was one of the most successful sectors in 2014, with several institutions establishing new branches at strategic points across the country. Republic Bank has been at the forefront in introducing branches.
Ladies and gentlemen, this event signifies the fruition of a process that commenced several years ago with a vision that was advanced when we were able to secure this location and subsequent approval from the Board of Directors for the construction of this $508 million facility. Our decision to enhance our presence in this community was primarily guided by the need for expanded facilities to serve the growing needs of the West Berbice community, and which over the years outgrew our modest Rosignol premises.
Further, the Caribbean's largest conglomerate, formerly Neil & Massey, now known as simply Massey, made the decision to invest some $10 million into Guyana's economy with the construction of a new location for warehousing at Montrose on the east coast of Demerara. The company has seen a net profit growth from $1.6 billion in 2006 to $3.5 billion in 2013, along with a 23% net profit increase after tax deductions. Finance Minister Dr. Ashney Singh said that such high results from the company operating in Guyana can only be as a result of the strength of the local economy.
Over 2,700 youths and single parents from all of the administrative regions, excepting 1 and 8, were granted the opportunity by the Labour Ministry in 2014 to become marketable and earn an income.
Across 8 regions, youths and single parents were trained in various fields under the National Training Program for Youth Empowerment and the Single Parent Program. This initiative is part of government strategy to reduce the level of unemployment and improve the living standards of its population. The BIT graduates received training in various disciplines including joinery, auto mechanic, plumbing, carpentry, welding, electrical and computer repairs, home economics, and cosmetology.
I feel really excited about the graduation and it's beneficial a lot. Well, I'm trying to get a job at some hair salon or something because I did a cosmetologist course. So from this, I'm trying to move forward.
The program is very interesting. I have learned many things. I have learned to build my self-esteem, and it's very good for youths, and it will help me go far away in life.
I do welding and fabricating at Carl Samaru workshop. And when I finish the course, I plan to open my own workshop and start on my own.
Over 3,000 persons are expected to graduate under the BIT program in 2015, according to Minister of Labour Dr. Nanda Gopal.
The Guyana Sugar Corporation, Gaisuku, has surpassed its 2014 production target of 216,000 tons, the first time in 9 years, amidst difficult and challenging circumstances.
The sugar target was surpassed when grinding for 2014 officially halted on December 24 at all estates. This is a major achievement for the corporation since it is a first in almost 10 years. It is one that has been brought through great struggles, providing the rough year Gaisuku has faced, with the delay of crops and its biggest challenge, the lack of funding, which was a result of the opposition slashing the allocated funds for the entity from the national budget. In efforts to prevent this, hundreds of sugar workers had gathered by the Parliament building, protesting against the opposition threats to remove the funding proposed for the sugar industry. This, however, was futile. However, the year saw a lot of investment by government in the sector to ensure its success. In 2015, the company will be focusing on increasing production, reducing production costs, enhancing its mechanization programs, expanding market base, and diversifying its line of business with new products, particularly value-added ones.
Government continues to work towards creating a crime-free society for its citizens. In this regard, the Ministry of Home Affairs handed over 5 boats valued $76.8 million to the Guyana Police Force's marine arm.
The MV Baramani, a Coast Guard patrol boat, was procured at a cost of $71.9 million, while the other 4 small wooden patrols were acquired to the tune of $4.9 million. These new boats will add to the capacity of the force and better enable the officers to police the riverine areas as well as the coastlands.
Today is indeed a happy day. With the 5 boats procured by the Ministry of Home Affairs, it will certainly add to our capacity and better enable us to police the riverine areas as well as coastal. It is the first time in our career, in our history, that we get a vessel that can actually do coastal patrols. And this will go a long way in bringing relief to fishermen and other persons that that operates offshore that has been threatened by piracy.
In order for us to be part of this, what I would describe as a contest between law enforcement and the underworld, we have to be always ready and equipped in order to be involved and to be on top of the situation.
Earlier this year, several members of the maritime arm were trained in usage of these vessels.
Stay tuned. More of the Weekly Digest after the break.
Guyana is set to achieve the goal set by the United Nations Children's Fund UNICEF of universal birth registration by 2015. The General Register Office has launched an intensive campaign. It has decentralized its services to specifically cater to the needs of residents living in the interior location. Bedside registration is also done in several public hospitals. There are now 200 registration centers operating in the 10 regions. Citizens are urged to ensure that all births are registered. In an effort to respond more promptly to citizens, the Home Affairs Ministry has launched an online crime reporting system which allows citizens who possess or have access to cell phones, computers, or other devices with internet connections to report criminal activities. Citizens can get instant access to security personnel on BlackBerry Messenger via 280-4E429. Reports of corruption can also be made on www.ipaidthebribe.com. These reports can be made anonymously. The modernization of the Justice Administration System, the MJAS project, has been completed through a loan from the Inter-American Development Bank. Achievements made under the project include amended and new laws, training for personnel within the sector, reduction of the severe case backlog, the refurbishing of courts, increased numbers of judicial officers and training, publication of law reports and their indices online, the establishment of a DPP office in Berbice, computerization of several connected systems, among other aspects.
To ease traffic congestion along the East Bank Highway, which is a critical thoroughfare for accessing the city, plans are afoot to construct a new bypass linkage from Eccles to Diamond. Additionally, the feasibility study for the East Coast East Bank Bypass Road has been completed and government will be examining how to advance this huge project.
You're with the Weekly Digest. Residents of Wakenham and Legwan are now benefiting from a 24-hour electricity service as the Guyana Power and Light Inc. GPL seeks to provide more reliable electricity services to citizens.
As part of its modernization strategy, the Guyana Power and Light Company, Incorporated, installed additional generator sets at the Legwan and Wakenham power plants, respectively. This will see residents of the Region 3 islands benefiting from a new 24-hour electricity service.
This project has been on the cards for quite a few years. As a company, we wanted to bring 24-hour electricity to you a few years ago, and we started planning for it. But in the last few years, as you know, each year there is a great deal of uncertainty as to what GPL will receive from Parliament in its budget. We had a number of cuts. We had to appeal to get it back. And these sorts of uncertainties did defer our plans to bring you 24-hour service. But it has now happened. It is a simple but significant step in your lives. I expect it will be transformational.
Wakenham, which has a population of approximately 10,000 persons, is mostly agricultural driven, and this new service will pave the way for greater economic growth in the Region 3 island. Meanwhile, the Legwan power plant has 3 new 513 kVA units along with auxiliary supplies.
Electricity has been one of the things that we aim to improve and extend to all of our peoples. And I am pleased to have had the opportunity to have been working in this sector, to be responsible for this sector through this time. And I think that we've done reasonably well within our means, our people, both the workers in GPL, the public at large, the funds that we could put to it. And just to say to you that we have been thinking of people all across our country. You would have heard that we've given a degree of electrification to homes within our hinterland using photovoltaic home systems as being the most economical to serve our families in such locations.
The Guyana Power and Light Company is now looking to link the islands, allowing for a more improved service in the future. Recently as well, GPL commissioned a new substation at North Rheinveld as part of the final component of the power company's new system, which is catered for under the $24 million infrastructure development program. This links Demerara and Berbice.
Region 5, which is known for its rich agricultural landscape, has again made a significant contribution to rice production, having produced close to 60% of the country's overall production in 2014.
According to Regional Chairman of the region, Benjamin Bisnot, this year the rice sector has done exceptionally well and has surpassed expectation despite the challenges. In 2014, the targeted amount for land preparation and cultivation was 66,600 hectares. However, as a result of the diligence of farmers and an upsurge in the crop, 1,042 hectares was prepared, out of which 8,442 hectares were sown. Most of that amount was harvested.
As we know, Region 5, our agriculture, our economic base is 90% dependent on agriculture. And I want to take this opportunity at this time to congratulate and to sincerely thank all the farmers, all those who contributed in what sector, the rice sector, the cash crop farming, the small remnants, the cattle, all farmers that contributed towards a healthy production for the year 2014.
Meanwhile, paddy production stood at 405.66 metric tons and rice 263.679 metric tons. While there continues to be issues with farmers receiving late payments for their paddy, Bisnot noted that recently the government released $2.1 billion to millers to make payments. Meanwhile, with Blairmont being the only sugar factory in the region, it was still able to surpass its projected target for 2014. The region had a projected target of 29,312 tons, and they achieved 33,499 tons, reflecting an increase of 4,000 tons.
A project to revise the laws of Guyana has been completed, but mistakes found had led to a law revision commission being set up. Work has already begun to ensure the continuous exercise of law revision.
Several acts were revised which made for a better country. The amendment to the Customs Act failed after it was rejected by the parliamentary opposition. However, a number of other legislation has been passed, one of which includes the spouse in a common law relationship being placed under the law.
Some that were intended to directly address certain lacuna in our law, which exist for a long time. And I specifically recall the one dealing with bringing the spouse in a common law union where the other partner has died, to bring that spouse to equal footing. If that spouse was unmarried, to bring her to equal footing as if she was married.
The criminal appeal, which was first rejected by the opposition, was finally passed. The education bill is already prepared, and the comprehensive hire purchase bill, which will correct a lot of laws since there are none.
Our hire purchase law is the old English common law position, whereas the title resides with the owner, and though you think that you purchased the vehicle, and you have an agreement of sale, basically, that says that. When you have a hire purchase agreement, you are essentially renting that vehicle. Title remains with the owner, and you may pay a substantial portion of the purchase price, and if there is default in one singular installment, the owner repossesses the vehicle, forfeit all the money that you have paid, and you have lost the vehicle and you have lost all your money.
However, the Deeds Registry has undergone many changes, and for the first time there is going to be a statutory money auditing. The Domestic Violence Bill, the Whistleblowing Legislation, the Act of Terrorism Bill, E-Governance Bill, and a number of other bills are awaiting tabling.
The 10th Parliament of Guyana was considered as non-productive in 2014. There were the budget cuts, the non-passage of the anti-money laundering bill, and was finally prorogued in November in an effort to find a way forward.
The year 2014 was a very significant one for the legislature, as it saw the commencement of the 10th Parliament under the new PPPC government led by President Donald Ramotar. However, due to the serious challenges faced as a result of a one-seat majority, the Parliament had serious issues to deal with. They were the budget cuts, the non-passage of the anti-money laundering bill, and it was finally prorogued in November of the year. Meanwhile, with the presentation of the national budget, the one-seat majority again cut out over $37 billion from the $270 billion budget for the third consecutive year. This was the largest ever cut made by the combined parliamentary opposition parties. Some of the affected entities and programs included the Student Loan Fund for UG students, Poverty Reduction Program, Initiatives for Amerindian Development, the Specialty Hospital and CJIA expansion projects, and again support was denied for the development of hydropower.
We saw a few minutes ago the combined opposition, APNU, AFC, refusing to approve, essentially withholding their approval, disapproving the entire capital budget for the Regional Clinical Health Services Program, a program that includes capital works at hospitals across the country, including the Port Kaituma Hospital, a very important medical facility that is currently under construction, including construction and/or rehabilitation of nurses, hostels, doctors' quarters in places like Linden and Kokwani, acquisition of medical equipment, including ambulances, ATVs for use by medical personnel in the interior, other medical equipment, including equipment used in hospitals, operating rooms, etc. All because of their objection to a single project and an objection that is rooted in political motivations, that is the specialty hospital.
Meanwhile, Guyana was granted until September 2015 to implement the legislative measures and until May 2015 to implement the non-legislative measures of the money laundering bill. This recommendation was accepted at the FATF meeting in Paris on November 24, 2014. The Attorney General at the meeting informed that Guyana had submitted an action plan after collaboration with the International Cooperation Review Group. This action plan was submitted and approved by FATF at the Paris meeting, where a high-level commitment was given by President Ramatar, pledging Guyana's commitment to implement this action plan.
Stay tuned. More of the Weekly Digest after the break.
In an effort to respond more promptly to citizens, the Home Affairs Ministry has launched an online crime reporting system which allows citizens who possess or have access to cell phones, computers, or other devices with internet connections to report criminal activities. Citizens can get instant access to security personnel on BlackBerry Messenger via 280-4E429. Reports of corruption can also be made on www.ipaidthebribe.com. These reports can be made anonymously. Guyana is set to achieve the goal set by the United Nations Children's Fund UNICEF of universal birth registration by 2015. The General Register Office has launched an intensive campaign. It has decentralized its services to specifically cater to the needs of residents living in the interior location. Bedside registration is also done in several public hospitals. There are now 200 registration centers operating in the 10 regions. Citizens are urged to ensure that all births are registered. The modernization of the Justice Administration System, the MJAS project, has been completed through a loan from the Inter-American Development Bank. Achievements made under the project include amended and new laws, training for personnel within the sector, reduction of the severe case backlog, the refurbishing of courts, increased numbers of judicial officers and training, publication of law reports and their indices online, the establishment of a DPP office in Berbice, computerization of several connected systems, among other aspects.
Pensioners will enjoy a 50% increase in assistance, bringing it to $30,000 per annum for pensioners who are customers of the Guyana Power and Light Company Incorporated. Further, old age pension is to be increased by 5% with effect from May 1, 2014 to $13,125 monthly, targeting the 42,500 senior citizens.
And now for perspectives with Dr. Prem Mizir.
The President's proclamation of prorogation would be a useful case study on the traditional opposition and the new opposition's modus operandi on Guyana's development. The media onslaught following the proclamation of prorogation was similar to the treatment given to the many stalled Government of Guyana capital projects that are now languishing in some corner of nothingness, thanks to the traditional and new opposition groups. In this sordid political context, many people present their political positions where they use democracy as a password to justify those positions. Invariably, those positions are opinions and not facts, but are presented as facts. At the present time, many critics are still having a field day with their anti-prorogation arguments, presenting their opinions, not facts. And then, in an attempt to justify this position, they exploit the use of the word democracy. That is, they would say that prorogation has silenced the voice of democracy. The Constitution of Guyana states clearly in Article 71, thus, and I quote, "The President may at any time, by proclamation, prorogue Parliament." End of quote. Prorogation is a done deal, and the President is in compliance with the Constitution of Guyana. The traditional opposition and the new opposition, through utilizing democracy to support their opinions, really are a threat to democracy itself because they see their opinions as factual beyond any reasonable doubt, where only their position is correct. And in the process, they shut out and dismiss other commentaries not supportive of their opinions. That is quite undemocratic. Let me clarify. The opposition groups present their opinions as if they are written in stone, or they are God's words, or that they have absolute knowledge. However, a knowledge that has excessive certainty will produce no room for a difference of opinion, and in the end, the opposition groups would not tolerate, and they do not tolerate, opinions opposed to theirs. It is this intolerance of opinions that is undemocratic, opinions that are opposed to the opposition group's positions. Liberal democracy does not claim certainty of knowledge or absolute knowledge, and does not deny the existence of truth. Liberal democracy makes no claim to absolute knowledge. There are always doubts about knowledge in a liberal democracy, making room for opposing opinions. And liberal democracy does not impose its views on the people. The opposition group's positions do not subscribe to what is called a liberal democracy. Their position is much more dictatorial. The traditional and new opposition groups present their views as absolute knowledge. In this case, there is no plurality of views, since the opposition groups believe their opinion to be absolute, with no room for opposing views. And the feeling that they alone have opinions that are equivalent to absolute knowledge is what makes the anti-prorogation arguments of the traditional and new opposition groups undemocratic.
And with those features, we have come to the end of this edition of Weekly Digest. But before we go, here's a recap of the highlights. Several large companies invested in Guyana in 2014. 2 Region 3 islands benefiting from 24-hour electricity service, and over 2,700 more youth and single parents now empowered with varying skills. Please note that Weekly Digest and other government information can be found on our website www.gina.gov.gy, or you can send us your comments and suggestions at ginagovgy@gmail.com. Join us again next week as we highlight more of the government's programs and policies that are aimed at enhancing the lives of citizens. I'm your host, Shanta Goberdan. Thank you for joining us. But before I go, I take this opportunity on behalf of the team at Weekly Digest to wish all our viewers and listeners a happy and productive 2015.